FOR 5 January 2021. This is part 2 of the Ford Observer Low Intensity Conflict Income. Picking up. Leftists publish new guide on crowd control weapons and tactics. Anarchist bloggers posted a demonstrator's guide to riot munitions yesterday. The document details various less lethal projectiles, chemical irritants, and impact munitions commonly used by law enforcement agencies in crowd control response operations. The guide also identifies common injuries sustained from these weapons and provides recommendations for personal protective equipment or tactics that can be used to counter them. There's a growing trend of anarchist groups studying the tactics, techniques, and procedures of law enforcement, which is likely leading to increased capabilities and better exploitation of police operations. Interestingly, this guide follows clashes between far-left groups and law enforcement in Portland, Oregon on New Year's Day. This guide being posted within a week of actions in Portland indicates that the far-left groups are determined to identify tactical successes or shortcomings and swiftly disseminate that information. Kenosha leaders announced precautions ahead of charging decision. Kenosha, Wisconsin Mayor John Antaramian and Police Chief Daniel Miskins announced that precautionary measures will be taken with the charging decision of officers involved in the shooting of Jacob Blake in August of 2020. The city's measures will include designating demonstration areas, changes to bus routes, road closures, protective fencing, and curfews. The announcement of whether or not officers will be charged will be made sometime within the next 2 weeks. Observers note, significant developments in high-profile cases such as this are likely to be sources of ongoing unrest through 2021. As they will discuss further, smaller cities such as Kenosha are increasingly becoming the focus of groups determined to foment a leftist insurrection in America. Far left eyes small cities for growing role in future insurgencies. Anarchist bloggers claim that small cities will play a more substantial, vital role in future popular uprisings. The authors stated that leftist revolutionaries in America historically concentrated in large cities such as Oakland and New York City are increasingly vulnerable to being cut off and isolated by the government. Therefore, they believe that it is of strategic necessity that unrest spread out into smaller cities to control supply lines, power generation, and access to food. In addition, they stress that the manufacturing, transportation, and distribution hubs in smaller cities are prime targets for future uprisings. Observers note, anarchist insurrections or proto-insurgencies represent a parochial insurgency, which is to say, localized. Parochial insurgencies can be defeated by government or counterinsurgent forces through isolation and breaking the insurgents' ties with the local community. What we're seeing is anarchist proto-insurgencies acknowledging this strategic vulnerability and attempting to either disperse their activities, avoiding isolation, or grow into an integrated insurgency across multiple jurisdictions. This shifts the center of gravity away from large cities where their numbers are stronger to suburban cities where they hope to exploit gentrification and growing inequality and recruit the poor and working classes into their movement. This is a strategy for their long-term survival and revolutionary struggle. Upcoming event calendar. Tomorrow, 6 January, election certification, U.S. Senate. Let's see just how many Republicans fold, like they always do. Let's see if anybody actually does anything about all the blatant fraud that occurred on election day. The reams of evidence, eyewitness accounts, sworn affidavits, and yet we have nothing. We have nothing from the justice system. We have nothing from the Justice Department. Nothing. Zero. Makes me wonder if everybody from the top to the bottom is involved and is just allowing it to occur. As in, oh well, there's really nothing we can do. And you know, because you know. It's just the way that the country is going. There's nothing we can do. What can anybody do? What can anybody actually do? Upcoming event calendar. 6 January, election certification, U.S. Senate. 6 January, Stop the Steal, Washington, D.C., give me a fucking break. 20 January, 46th presidential inauguration, probably the last one we're going to have in my lifetime with a free election. 20 January, Shield Wall, please, Washington, D.C. 23 January, MAGA Victory Parade, stop it, Georgia and Tennessee. You know, that's really only if anybody with spines and balls would actually stand up to the Democrats. I don't have faith in that, judging by the history of this country and its leftward lurch for the last few decades. But it's a nice thought. So, we shall see what we shall see for 2021 and further. As that one guy said in that one movie, that one time, it's going to be a bumpy ride. All right, 623 out.